Welcome to my world. Won't you come on in? Miracles, I guess, still happen now and then. Step into my heart, leave your cares behind. Welcome to my world, built with you in mind. Knock and the door will open. Seek and you will find. Ask and you will be given the key to this world of mine. I'll be waiting here with my arms unfurled, waiting just for you. Welcome to my world. Knock and the door will open. Seek and you will find. Ask and you will be given the key to this world of mine. I'll be waiting here with my arms unfurled, waiting just for you. Welcome to my world. I got about 50 slides that I took kind of in a hurry just before leaving to show people that, who've been to Meherabad to see what changes have happened in the last few years, because there have been a lot of big changes. And I'm starting with some of the very small ones. This is an old photo from Baba's time. You recognize where it is? It's behind, no, it's Upper Meherabad. Those are the three old toilets. That's Mansari Baba's kitchen on the other side of that stone wall.
Wow.
So, I don't know, Jethro here, does he recognize that building?
No, it's not.
He's not here, okay, because he rebuilt the roof on that building, or not that whole building, but a good part of that building when he was at Meherabad.
So that's our kitchen, or?
Well, they call it, it's Baba's kitchen.
Baba's kitchen.
Yeah,
Okay.
but Mansur used it.
Yeah.
So that wall was a wall built by the Mandli in mud mortar. The front three sides have all been rebuilt, but the back had collapsed. So one thing we did, slide. How do I indicate? Okay. Just say next.
Baba's name. Hi, Baba.
Okay, so now we're putting it back. So that's one of the things we did recently, was to finally put this wall back and have it look like it did the original wall. Next, there it is, finished. And the building you see beyond it, that's the building that Jethro spent his whole pilgrimage up on top of, replacing all the termite-eaten wood and so on, which he was here to see it. So that was something we did. Next, please. Oh, and this was a major restoration of this study hall, museum study hall building. Took all the tiles off and put a membrane over the whole surface of the roof, and then put new tiles back on.
Wow.
And, yeah, we did a lot to this building. Next, please. So the whole roof has got like a flexible membrane over the whole top of it. And then, of course, it's been repainted. The woodwork that was really fallen, all rotten away. It was, every bit that could be salvaged was salvaged. And then patched with fresh wood. And basically we try to keep remnants of everything rather than replace a whole piece. If there are parts of it are rotten, you know, we just cut out that part and replace it with something new. Can you go back 2 slides? So Jethro know where he spent his pilgrimage. There he is. Now, okay, that's the original back in Baba's time. And next slide, there. You recognize that? Yeah. It looks like, yeah, doesn't look like a big deal, but it really is a big deal. Because the stuff was, well, very close to falling down. Some of it would have fallen, right?
Yeah.
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 It doesn't look so bad until you get up there and discover that there's really no wood there at all, just it's a hollow thing.
This on the.
This is a study hall roof. We took all the tiles off and put a membrane over the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then put the tiles back on.
Yeah.
Next. Next. Okay, then the hardest part here was the transition between the tin shed where the Baba's Gadi is and the windows in the museum in the East Room, which are practically at the same level as the top of the roof. So all that stuff has been, a membrane is put a flexible membrane, and then it all gets painted to look like it.
What's the membrane made of?
It's a liquid acrylic thing, but it also has a fleece-like cloth that you paint it down, and you press this fleece-like cloth. It's not a woven cloth, because woven cloth will move. And then more coats of this thing. Next, then we got the study hall. So that's the finished job, really.
Wow.
So it doesn't look any different.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So tin roof underneath the top.
Oh, we did all the pointing in the stonework. So next thing will be the inside. So this is the Samadhi. I don't know if you remember, there was an old tarpaulin cover. So we, and that was rotted away, so we had to change it. So we put something a little better up there. But the rope is, I think we kept the rope. The COVID, when there's a gap, that's the cube wanders around and, or, you know,
Yeah.
queues up in there with little feet on a Farsi, 6 feet apart. People should stand, you know, step ahead as the next person steps ahead, so they're not all bunched up. And they stay in there, and then afterwards the singers and the people who want to sit can sit out here. I think this is still going on like this. And inside the Samadhi, there is a railing, a very nice looking teak wood rail that makes it, well, people can't actually put their face or head on the marble. So they stop there and take their darshan and then walk on without actually touching the marble. Just for COVID, just the contagious stuff. And you're supposed to put hand sanitizer on. I don't think you need masks anymore. I'm not sure. At the time I left, we were using masks, but. And Baba's cabin, you can see it beyond it. That's got a screen in front. So you can see inside easily, but you can't go inside. Next. Okay, this is a Gulu and Jalu's house. Now Gulu and Jalu have passed away. Saeed, I don't think you worked on this one, Jethro, but Saeed did a lot of work restoring this building. And then Janet orchestrated the furnishing of it. And since Gulu and Jalu's was originally I think in the beginning it was a maternity hospital.
Yeah.
Baba had a maternity hospital there. Norina Machabelli was the, no,
Nadine Tolstoy?
Nadine Tolstoy was the matron. And the Monley women would cook and clean. And the village women came and had their babies. And Baba would come and hold each baby. Yeah. So part of the building is devoted to that, with the thing. But this building was also the only remaining must ashram in the world. So it's dedicated to the musts. So we got pictures of all the musts. We've got a description of the musts. Some of the must stuff, Mohammad's kafni and the mugs and dishes they use. Next slide.
Is this the building that they edited the journal in, Elizabeth and Noreen? Is this the building that the journal was?
Yes, the
Published
journal
in?
is also,
Yeah.
one room is devoted to the journal here. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
At one end of it, there's the cage room,
Yeah,
and the little entryway before the cage room, that's where the Meherabad journal was typed.
yeah, okay.
Much of the information for this was taken from the wayfarers. Bus tours. Baba traveled over 70,000 miles all over India and contacted over 20,000 musts that got intoxicated people in just a couple of years. I mean, it's hard to believe the effort he went through on that.
Mohammed stayed in Mandali Hall then, and he used to lie on his side for hours and hours and days, and he'd get these dreadful bed sores. And he'd come out occasionally and sit on the veranda, and Padre told me, now you dress these bed sores. So I pulled his kafni up, I had all the swabs and this and that, and I'd pull his kafni up, he'd pull his kafni as that robe. He didn't wear anything else underneath it. I'd pull it up so I could dress his bed sores, and he'd pull it down. I'd pull it up, he'd pull it down. And then he bent over and he picked me up and he flung me off the veranda. This little old man, he was the strongest, he was totally strong. I landed in the dirt. The veranda was about this far off the ground, and I landed in the dirt. And Padre just happened to be wandering. Oh, he said, what happened to you? And I said, well, he threw me off the veranda. And he went over to Muhammad and he gave him hell. And he made him apologize to me. So there was Maafi Janabai, Maafi, which means forgive me. Maafi Janabai, he called me Janabai, which was heavenly one, and he called Heather Hazarabai, which is a respected one. Yes.
That was the mad one.
Story.
Beautiful story.
Yeah.
Life in it. But when we'd go away, he would sing songs about us when we were gone. When Heather went away, he would sing a few days before she'd arrived. He'd start saying, Hezrabai is coming tomorrow. Hezrabai is coming. He called her respected one, Hezrabai. He'd sing these songs loudly. And then when I'd go away, he'd sing, Janabai is coming tomorrow. Janabai is coming tomorrow. We loved that must. He was like a fire that you could come and warm your hands and heart on. Yeah. But Padre had him right under his thumb. Right under Padre's thumb. He used to call Padre Seth, which means respected one.
The mum is the one on the right for anybody that doesn't know who he is. The guy up there.
These are Baba's my favourite musts. And Baba travelled for thousands of miles in terrible conditions. And, you know, a meal every third day or something, looking for these musts.
Just the mic.
Whose love was calling him.
Who's the one next to Muhammad?
Jali Baba.
Tell you about it down the end.
Next slide. Okay, yeah, then Baba had 7 must ashrams. The one in Meherabad is the only remaining identifiable place where, you know, like a building and a piece of land. He served the must. I didn't realize that, but in reading, Duncan said that in serving the musts, which is what he did. I mean, he fed them and clothed them and bathed them and cut their hair and did all this stuff. Baba, that's what he did. And, you know, hugged them and loved them. Cleaned the toilets. I think something about it brought them back to a certain awareness of the world, so where they could function. Otherwise, they weren't even conscious of being in the body, really. Next. Okay, yeah, this is one of the rooms. This was the room that Gulu and Jali lived in mostly, and had a stove and stuff. But it was also used as a, well, the maternity hospital was also in the room with the must, but we decided to do the photo thing and the explanation in this room, which is the first room you go into, and tells the story of the maternity hospital. What I should have done was brought something I could read of these things, but do you know like how long it went on, or?
When and what?
Heather wrote a beautiful thing in the top there about the maternity hospital and how Baba would every day come and
Had all the
hold
babies.
the babies that were born the day before. And the women Mandali looked after the mothers, cooked and cleaned and took care of the mothers. And then we put up a little remembrance of Gulu and Jali and Kaikabad, who lived in there after, up until recently. But during Baba's time, they lived in this building.
They used to, Gulu and Jali used to, they were very fat. And their mother was fat. It was a fat family of women. And, Kaikabad was the father, and he was very skinny. And they used to wear little dresses. They make themselves little dresses. They didn't wear saris or things, and they had sort of little slightly flared skirt and a little top and things, and they'd come up to about here, and their bloomers would come down to about here, and they would wander around the hill because they had Baba's order to walk because they were getting very plumpy, and I'd go and see them, and they would be on a diet, and he'd say to me, "Do you think I'm fat?" And obviously they were very fat. They were trying to lose weight and they had to walk. And one day, the Consul General of America in Mumbai came out. We weren't expecting him, he just kind of turned up. And he parked at the bottom. He didn't really know where he was going, and he walked up the hill from the railway line. And Gulu and Jali were having their little walk. And I was called to go and meet him. So I met him and he was looking very surprised. And he said, "You know, I saw these two very interesting looking women walking around the hill when on my way up." It was very funny.
They were totally innocent. And,
Yeah.
what? Ignorant of the world around, of the civilized world around them. I mean, they were wise in their own way, but I mean, I don't know what a rupee note or I know we got a new motorcycle and I showed it to them. Jali said, "Did that cost 100 rupees?" You know. But they were sweethearts. And so innocent. They're the ones that Baba told them not to waste food, and they would sit on this floor with their pot. They'd eat right out of the pot, and they would clean up every grain of rice that was in the pot, and if any of it fell on the floor, they'd pick it up and eat it. And just the other day, I was trying to get every grain of rice out of a pot that I was using. I couldn't do it. I just physically couldn't do it. I mean, it would have taken me an hour or more just to get it. But that's how they were, how literally they took their orders. Next, please. That's the typewriter that Mayor Baba Journal was typed on.
This is in that same building. It's at the other end it's on the end closest to the study hall, not the one closest to the Samadhi. And this is where the Mayor Baba Journal was written, in this one, which is a journal. Who wrote it, Jason?
Well, Irina Machiavelli was sort of the editor, and Elizabeth Patterson.
Yeah.
But they got a lot of people to write for it. That was the cover of it, that tree up there. The cover of it. And this is many of you have been to the cage room. There's a little room before you first go in from the courtyard into this little room, and then there's another door into the cage room. Okay, next please. Oh, here's another project. The men's graves have been sinking for years and years. So we waited for Ali Ramju to conk out, because he was the very last one. That's his, the gap there. And I took it apart, just the top. We didn't do any digging, of course. But I took it apart and poured a concrete slab and then put it all back on top so it would stay, it wouldn't sink anymore. Next, please. Yeah, that's the slab. Of interest only to builders, and then next. They're all nice and level, but they look the same. You wouldn't know that happened.
Good job.
Tidier. All right, next one. Oh, okay. Well, you saw that last.
I have a story about those graves.
Want to go back?
Mara, when she come out,
All right.
she
Thanks.
she would sometimes come to Lower Meherabad. I mean, she'd lived at Lower Meherabad for many years, but this is in my time, not when she was living at Meherabad. And when the Pilgrim Centre at Lower Meherabad was inaugurated, she sat on the front veranda and she looked across and she saw the men's graves. And she said, you know, she called me, she said, you know, Janet, it's not very nice to sit here and look for pilgrims to look at graves. She said, I want you to plant a hedge around that. Oh dear, you don't have no idea how that terrified me, because you absolutely had to, if you want to please Baba, you had to obey Mera. And I knew what Padre was going to do. I went to Padre and I said, Kaka, we called him Kaka, which is a respectful, like, uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to him and I said, Mera would like me to plant a hedge around the men's graves. And he was her first cousin. And he looked at me and he said, over my dead body. Ouch. What I'll do, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? And then Mera, who I was thinking, maybe Mera will forget. Oh, if only she forgets, then I'll be all right. But she didn't forget. She said, how's that loose hedge doing? I said, well, actually, I haven't been able to start it yet. And she said, I'm telling you, you do it now. I said, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I went up to the Samadhi and I said to Baba, it's not fair. I'm the meat and the sandwich between Padre and Mera, and that's not my position. And he said, oh, don't worry about that, I'll do it. And he went out and did it. And he said, but no punny, no punny. But then the Pilgrim Centre opened and there was all this wastewater coming into these houses. So I got a bicycle, attached a pump to it, and I employed this ancient old man who would sit there all day and pedal and pump water on that hedge. And the day before he died, he said to me, Padre said to me, you've got some holes in that hedge, you go and plant these now.
See the green thing behind the graves? That the hedge-like thing, that's what's stopping it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Next. So this happened 3 years ago, I guess now. But the tower was finished and we had an opening, we had an inauguration on the 23rd of December 2019. Because Baba ordered to have a tower and buried Masaji and Chanji here in 23rd December 1944. So this was 75 years later. And Baba said, I want the names of my departed lovers inscribed on the tower, and emblems of the important religions of the world. So that's what happened. We also put a glass prism, assembly of solid glass prisms, so that the sun would create a spectrum. It just so happened that it landed at this point at the time. You can see the little rainbow patch there?
Right.
Yeah, that's from the sun. Sunlight refracted through this prisms at the peak of this tower. It moves fairly quickly. And it's cloudy days, it's not there, but on a good sunny day, it appears.
So how does it move? What is
Sun moves.
Well, when the sun moves, then it changes to the different
Yeah.
symbols? Oh, that's so
Not
cool.
all the symbols, but yeah.
Just on the board. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Ken, did you know it was going to fall that high up on the symbols when you designed it?
I didn't know that for sure, but I did experiment with a smaller thing on the roof of my house.
Yeah.
And put it up on a pipe, same height, and got a nice thing, and timed it, and
Yeah.
with a compass, and time of year, and all that.
How many names are on the monument? Names, how many names?
354. And some of them you've never heard of.
Hmm.
You have no idea why they're there.
There are 5 as well.
And you'll find like Mani Mera, Erich, they're not on it because they were alive at the time. And so well, I mean, they were still alive after Baba dropped the body. So these are the names that Baba actually had read to him a few months before he dropped the body. So there'd be no more names, thank goodness.
Where did you get the materials from, Ted?
Well, the stone was local, but the marble came from Mount Abu. And if you could switch it, because there's more stuff here that we could talk about and answer that question. Next slide. I'll get back to that
How many
question.
Australian names are on the monument, Ted?
Pardon me?
How many Australian names are on the monument?
You know, can't answer that, but there are a lot of them.
There are 5.
Huh?
There are 5.
Oh, way more than
Which
five.
ones?
Yeah.
The Baron, Sarepta Lawrence, Francis,
Bill LePage's
father.
parents or something on this, I think, or you probably know, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Roy LePage.
yeah. The base is the master in servitude symbol, shape. Next. Yeah, okay. On the left are the 2 graves of Masaji and Chenji. And then that's where Baba held the ceremony. And he gave this wonderful discourse, which is carved in marble on that plaque thing there. Next, please. Okay, here we go. This is, the shape of this is the graph of x, y equals 1. Which, when you make a graph of that formula, you get a hyperbola. A hyperbola starts when say a tiny value is given to x or y. That value would, well, there'd be a value, and that this curve would curve up to that value, and as the value got higher, it would rise. At infinity, it would become, in this case, going vertically, it would become nothing. The value of x in reach would actually touch the vertical axis. And horizontally, it would touch the horizontal axis at infinity. So mathematically, this shape would, if we have to cut it short, top and bottom, but mathematically, it would encompass everything. The circle gets so big, it would reach an infinite size and be everything. And this thing would get so small that it would become nothing. So it's actually a very accurate, I guess you'd say, physical representation of, say, the Om point, where the creation comes into existence. Why don't you switch to the next slide? Yeah, here it talks about it a bit. At the Om point, comes from nothing and becomes everything. That's the Hindu picture of it. The Christians who kind of, I guess, discovered this thing, called it Gabriel's horn, where the angel Gabriel blew the creation into existence. And in the Quran, the prophet talks about it. or wideness, well, it says it there, wideness to narrowness, and the higher it ascends in knowledge, the fewer his sciences become. And the path to excellence is, in narrowness, is actually nothingness. So I mean, it was a discovery, it wasn't a design or creation. Okay, next case, well, there we are, yeah. So that was the inauguration. Pardon me?
What year?
What year?
Wait.
What year?
2019. December 23rd, 2019. So, 2.5 years ago. Next. Okay. The railway was getting pretty dangerous. Having pilgrims having to walk across it every time to go to the hill. So we managed to persuade the railway to build an underpass. I mean, they insisted on doing it themselves. So they precast these blocks. They're 1.5 meters wide and about 3 by 2.5 meters. 3 meters wide. Sorry, 3 meters wide, 2.5 meters high, 1.5 meters thick. And so they precast those well in advance. And then they stopped the trains for 6 hours. And next, they started digging. And within a few hours, they had removed everything under the 2 rails and then inserted these concrete boxes. Next. And 5 hours, it took them 5 hours, the trains went going over it again. And then it was up to us to do the ramps and all that to get in and out. So, next. Oh, we got in time for Amartithi. And there they are going under there. Next, so that's, this is on the Samadhi side. Next, that's on the lower Meherabad side. No, motorcycles can't go through, otherwise I'd be taking shortcuts through here all the time. And then the young adult sahavas, I used to have them here. I hope you continue, actually. As a project, they did a mural inside. Next slide. Next slide. There they are. So that's what it looks like now.
Nice and bright.
Next slide. Okay, so so this is the highway. And you can kind of see that they've curved it out. You can see it's a nice curve here. And they've curved it out to give us a little more space on the Dooney side. So here it is under construction. Then they built and paid for a tunnel under the road. Next, here they are digging it up, and along with a lot of pipes and telephone wires and fiber optic cables. we were without a lot of telephones and internet for a long time. But there they go. You can see the engine. You can see the Dooney on the other side.
Okay, yeah.
See that?
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay, next case. Poured concrete. They did one side, put the lid on it, and then opened the road, and then built the other side on the Dooney side. So traffic was never completely blocked.
Was this going on during the lockdown?
No, this was before, we finished this before the lockdown.
Before the lockdown.
Yeah. Next, please. So then we built the ramp. Go back one, yeah. We built the ramps to get down in there. There's the Dooney on the right. Trying to make it look a little, what? Not too modern. I know it's a big shock. It didn't turn out to be the shock that I thought it would to people. Now it's just, you know, an everyday thing. And around the Dooney, around this part on the right, I feel it's actually quieter now. And, I mean, you're not gonna get hit and run over by a car, you know, slides off the road or something. Next. So this is, we built actually two, but right now we only need one side. So this is how you walk from Lower Meherabad to Upper Meherabad. Next.
And it's only going to be pedestrian.
Yes. There's the Dooney. And there's a stone wall that now really makes a very solid boundary to the trust property, and all the pipes and the wires can all take place outside, and our need trees are protected. Next, please. Yeah, so we did this whole thing. This was like, I don't know how many kilometers of stone wall on both sides. And eventually it'll have a grilled steel gate on top. A fence on top. And we actually have put in gates. I think there are pictures of them coming up. Next, please. Yeah, here we go. This is a gate out to Outer Meherabad. And the next one was the gate to the MPC. Next, please. That's it. There you are. That's what it looks like now. And they move fast. They planted stuff. Okay, this is the next, and probably the last project. This is the building that Bob was born in this room closest to us here. But this old building had to be demolished to put up this enormous new hospital wing, they call it, but it's more than a wing. It's a 15-story enormous building. And they agreed to let us have a room in their new building devoted to Mayor Baba and to the fact that he was born in this building. And the room itself, I wish I could have taken GPS, and we probably still could somehow, a GPS thing about where this actually happened and how it compares to the room in this new building, but it's quite close, I think. I mean, I kind of kept looking at it, and I don't think it's more than, 50 feet away from where this actually happened. But we took, when there's being demolished, we went down there with a big dump truck and took the doors and windows and the stones around the windows. We took the marble flooring that was in the room and took it all back up to Meherabad. Next. That's when we were picking up the stuff. Next. So this is Meherabad reassembling that window and some of the other stuff. And when the building got to a certain point, they poured the floors and built the exterior walls. We went down there and put this in one of the rooms that they had let us have. The, you probably heard this story, but the contractor, he was very happy to, and they were very helpful about us doing this. It was made their job more interesting, I think. But we still had to get the permission of the head of the hospital, and he's a big government, big shot in government. And so I went, Marinot went, Pratap Ahir went, and we had a meeting with what they call the dean of the hospital. And he was 20 minutes late. He apologized. He had to go and look after 100 people who had just been mowed down by a bus, and we're all coming over to be taken care of in this government hospital. And we sat down and said, well, how can I help? And he said, well, we want a room in your new hospital. That's asking for a lot, you know. I mean, I don't know how many millions of dollars this building's worth and how much per square feet each little bit is worth. But just say we want a room. I actually didn't think realistically he'd ever say yes. Because he wasn't a bottle lover. In terms of the hospital staff, there weren't any bottle lovers that we could use to talk him into it. But he looked at it, he had his staff there too. He looked around his staff and said, what do you think? And he said, what do you think? And he said, okay. And, we looked at each other, oh my God, he said, okay. And so let's go, before he changed his mind. And he said, no, wait. So we sat down, and then he did something, and there was some paperwork, and 10 minutes later, a pew walks in, one of the office boys came in with a big armload of bouquets of yellow roses. Oh. And he gave us each a bouquet of yellow roses. Oh my God. How do you explain something like that?
Father.
What?
Father, who else? Oh my God. Wow.
So, I mean, this has been going on for a long time. I don't know, I think that was 2009 when this whole thing began. But just this year, at Baba's birthday, we finished the room and we inaugurated it. So, next slide. Yeah, Baba had Adi, I don't know what year he did it, but they had put a marble plaque on that old building. So we salvaged that, and that's now displayed in the room, the new room. Next, please. So here's the new room. That's the window. There's the marble floor. And inside are photos of Baba and plaques. Well, we have Baba's. Well, I got Jim Frisino's symbol. I think it's over here in the meeting room. I stole his symbols, and the quote that he picked about, I will bring all religions together, beads on a string. Because it all has to be in Hindi, English, Telugu, and Marathi, so we're all in 4 different languages. And then Baba on suffering, and some pictures of Baba throughout his life. Next, please. Yeah, here we go. There's a plaque.
Can people in the hospital go into the room?
The room, right now, the way we hope that it'll be managed, because the hospital is not open yet, but I think you guys, if anybody that's going there could find their way in there. Um, It's meant, right now, I think what we're hopefully gonna get away with is we're gonna have a Baba volunteer from Pune come over every morning. Dust it off, put some fresh flowers, unlock the room, put some fresh flowers and leave. And then, there's a thing like, don't eat food, don't do prayers and singing and making a lot of noise. But it's for Baba lovers who want to see where Baba was born. And this is the best we can do right now, or we'll ever be able to do. And, you know, it's a pilgrimage thing. There'll be, people from Pune will come over regularly. And then we hope that the patients will, who just need some comfort, you know, they've probably been through some suffering and so on. They come over here and there are chairs, there'll be chairs to sit on. And just be here, be in Baba's presence, whether they're Baba lovers or not, and get some kind of comfort out of it.
Is the marble floor the original floor?
Yeah, right. I mean, it got torn up pretty bad getting it out, but I put all the pieces on the outside. And,
That looks nice, that
next slide.
Is it Samadhi?
That's another, yeah. This is just more of the room. Next slide.
So beautiful.
So that's, yeah, I think, is that the very last one? No, there's the building.
Oh,
So it's not, it's one of the big, major buildings in Pune.
Did you paint like the pink and the doors and stuff was something you people did or they did? The pink and the door inside the room and everything.
Paint?
Yeah. The doors looked pink. You decorated the whole.
No, that's a white, that's just the
Ah.
film, yeah.
Oh.
No, I mean, it was a hospital, it was originally a white room in a hospital. So it's supposed to look like a hospital room.
Huh?
Hmm. That, I think, is the last slide.
Yes, it is.
Is it? All right.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.